Let's give the people what they want.
Joker, Folie et Deux is the sequel to the billion-dollar smash hit 2019 released film Joker that was directed by Todd Phillips. This movie is once again directed by Todd Phillips and once again brings back Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker. The movie also brings in a new face to this dark and gritty world, and that would be Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn, the love interest of the Joker. And that's what this movie centers around: two main storylines featuring Lady Gaga and the Joker and their love story that they have going on, and the other storyline is the character of Arthur Fleck dealing with the aftermath of the horrific events from the first film. He's now an inmate slash mental patient at Arkham Hospital, and he is slowly building his court case with his lawyers to prove that both he and the Joker are two split personalities within himself. His defense thinks that that's the best way to keep him from getting the death penalty, and he can live out his days in a mental patient hospital instead of getting the death sentence for becoming the Joker and killing all of those people in the first film. But throughout the first act, Arthur runs into Harley Quinn at a music class that they have at Arkham Hospital, and one thing leads to another, and she inspires him to bring out the Joker. And so now, with his defense hoping that they can prove that there's a split personality, all Arthur Fleck wants to do is be the Joker going into that court case. And that's the best synopsis that I can give you for this film, other than the fact that it's a musical, but we'll get to more of that later. If that sounds like an interesting concept to you, well, you can go check it out. It is playing in theaters now. Let's get into some of my positives and some of my negatives. My first positive for this film is the cinematography. It absolutely looks beautiful, and you're probably going to hear a lot of critics talk about that as one of their positives, because the movie does genuinely look beautiful to look at. But one of the things that stands out to me is that this is still the same dark and gritty Gotham that we had in the first movie, but it shines. There's something about it that's so appealing. Something about the colors in this movie are so appealing to the eye while being set in this dark and gritty Joker world that we're given in these Joker movies. My next positive has to be the acting in this film, coming from Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. To start with Joaquin Phoenix, he brings that same amount of emotion that he gave us in the first film. He brings it right over to this movie, and he does such a damn good job with it. There's something about the way he plays Arthur Fleck, where the Joker is this evil mastermind criminal who doesn't care about anybody else, just cares about himself, but Arthur is this broken down man that you care about, that you want to see succeed in life, but you see life pushing him down, his mom pushing him down, people around him pushing him down. Nobody can understand him, and he himself doesn't do himself any favors. He's got a lot of mental illnesses, and so you care for this character of Arthur Fleck while also being terrified of what his alter ego in the Joker could be. And I think that he does such a great job portraying that character. This is one of my favorite roles from Joaquin Phoenix. And that'll lead me to Lady Gaga's performance in this film as Harley Quinn, the love interest of the Joker. And I love what she did with this character as well, because in this movie, she is portrayed as this person who's absolutely obsessed with all things Joker. She doesn't care for Arthur Fleck as much. In fact, she believes he needs to embrace his Joker personality and be Joker full time, and sort of sways him throughout this film on whether or not he's going to be Arthur Fleck or he's going to be the Joker. And so I think she's able to bring that emotion, and most of it on her part is through music. And while we'll get to the music stuff here in a minute, I do think she has a beautiful voice. And so every time she brings that emotion through song in this film, or just the way she looks at him in this movie, it all worked for me. I thought that she played that character of Harley, who was so obsessed with Joker, but wanted absolutely nothing to do with Arthur as long as she could bring the Joker out of him. I loved that. I thought that she did a great job being this unhinged Harley Quinn, but really she was unhinged because she was madly in love with the Joker. And my final positive for this film is, while this film is a musical, I liked how they made it make sense. What I mean by that is that the first Joker film was just a straight up film. There was nothing about that movie that you would call a musical. I guess there's one scene where Joker has a very artistic moment where he dances in front of a mirror. Felt like I was watching an A24 film at that point, but it worked. There was no problem problem with that. But in this film, going into it thinking it was going to be a musical, my main concern was, is it going to make sense? Is the musical aspect of this movie going to make sense? And they tie that together pretty well. Because at the beginning of this film, Harley Quinn and Arthur Fleck meet in a music class that Arkham puts on as sort of music therapy for the inmates and the patients that are there. And so they get put in this class together. That's how they meet. And so it kind of makes sense why this is a musical going forward. And I'm not saying all of the musical elements worked for me. We'll get to that in a second. But it did kind of work for me, or at least I understood why this was a musical going forward, because they would have these songs between each other and it made sense why they were singing to each other since they met in this class. But that'll lead me over to my negatives, and my first negative for this film is that it's a damn musical. Listen, I know I just praised it for tying that part together. I had no problem with that. In fact, I was happy that the movie at least gave a reason for the fact that these two were going to sing to each other for the majority of the runtime of this film. However, the musical aspect didn't work for me at all. Every 5 to 10 minutes you have a musical number in this film, and it was so annoying, all the way down to the final scene of this movie. I'm not going to ruin anything here, but in the final scene of this movie, when something big is going down, they're like, cut away to a musical number. And it's just so annoying. I was bored through most of those moments. And listen, I'm not much for musicals. So maybe if you're a huge musical fan, this won't be a problem for you. You can run right with it because the movie does a good job setting up why it's a musical. But then the fact that it becomes a full-on musical throughout the rest of the film, it was so annoying. It was so grating at times that it pulled me out every time. Like the movie would start to pick up. I'd be like, all right, what are they going to do with this court case? And then it would just pull me out of the movie completely because they went into another 3 to 4 minute song, and I was just like, come on, when are we going to get through this? My next negative for this film is that there's not much new to offer in this movie. And while this is a sequel and a 2 hours and 20 minute sequel to the original film, it does feel like an extended epilogue of that first film, because in this movie he does meet Harley Quinn and he does have a court case, but that's it. Those are the two elements of this film. It's like they had two ideas. They were like, we want to do something more with this Joker universe. We love what Joaquin was able to do in the first movie. We want to introduce Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. So that's one idea that we have. We also want to do a court case. We'll even have Harvey Dent as the prosecuting attorney. That'll be great. So we'll have a little bit more of the Batman world, Batman flavor sort of mixed into that movie. So now you've got Harvey Dent, you've got a court case, and you've got Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Those are our ideas. What are we going to do with the film? And they were just like, we're going to run with it like that. So there's not much more substance to the film itself past those two elements. I mean, you could say some of the stuff that happens at the prison yard and in the prison with the guards is more of the movie, but none of that really worked for me either. So you had these really good ideas for a film, but you never really expanded further than that. If those two ideas were the opening act and a half, even full 2 acts of the film, but the third act took it in a completely different direction, I think it would have been so much better. But instead, they had these two ideas and they run with those ideas for 2 hours and 20 minutes while throwing songs at you along the way, and it really never gets anywhere really new. Like, okay, all the events happened in the first Joker movie. Kind of assumed the cops got him, he's going to court. Kind of assumed that already. So there wasn't really new ground here other than introducing Harley Quinn, but even introducing Harley Quinn into a DC movie isn't very new anymore because we've already had Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. And it's just like, all right, so give me something new, say something new. And it really didn't feel like it had much new to say other than, hey, maybe instead of a split personality, he's just a guy that's been down on his luck the entire time. But again, that's something we knew from the first movie. And it's just so frustrating that what it feels like you get in this film is just an extended portion of that first movie. And my final negative for this film, and probably the biggest negative that I have overall, even more than the musical, even more than the fact this movie doesn't give you too much more to run with in the entire runtime of this movie, the biggest negative that I have is that this film hurts the original movie. This film takes what they crafted so beautifully, so well in that first film, and it just pulls the curtain back on everything. What I mean by that is in the first film, you legitimately, as the viewer, do not know what is real and what isn't real until the very end of the movie. And then at the end of the movie, you think you have things figured out, and you get a scene with Joker sitting down with a therapist in a room, and he smiles a little, and it kind of flashes through the movie, shows the Waynes getting shot in the alley, and the lady says to him, "What's so funny?" And he says, "You wouldn't get it." And it's become a meme, it's become a huge thing, but the great moment about that end scene in the film is that the entire film is up for the viewer's interpretation. The entire film may not have happened. You watch that first film all the way through. You get that big reveal at the end that he's not actually dating the girl in his building. That's a huge, like, oh my God, what else isn't real? What happened? What didn't happen? It makes you want to rewatch the movie. But then you get to that final scene and you don't even know if the entire movie happened. Maybe this guy's been in Arkham the entire time. And I love that about the first movie. It's what brings me back to that first movie over and over and over. But you get to this film, they pull the curtain back and they say, this was real, that wasn't real. That happened, that didn't happen. He's standing trial for this, so that happened. This didn't happen, and that happened. And it's just like, why did you point all that out? That was the magic, in my opinion, of the first film, was not knowing, leaving it to the viewer's interpretation. There's something that is so outstanding about a comic book film that can flip the genre and then at the same time leave the entire movie up to the viewer's interpretation. I don't know if I've ever seen a comic book movie like that before. And this movie just completely pulls that curtain back and exposes everything that happened in the first movie. And it's so frustrating to watch that happen because now on future viewings of that 2019 Joker film, I'm going to know exactly what happened because the second movie told me. There's no more leaving it up to the interpretation. When he has that final scene at the end of the movie and he smirks and you see the Waynes getting shot in the alley, creating Batman, maybe that happened, maybe it didn't happen. Now this movie says, yep, that absolutely did happen. And it's so frustrating that they made a sequel that completely destroys the intrigue of the first movie. Overall, would I recommend this movie? That's an interesting question because I'm not 100% sure how to answer it. If you're a huge fan of musicals, 100% go check this movie out. You'll have a great time. If you loved that first movie as much as I did and you liked the what happened, what didn't happen, intrigue, maybe you don't know, maybe you do know, maybe as the viewer you chose what happened and what didn't happen. If you liked that aspect of the first movie, then I definitely don't recommend this movie. Don't watch it at home, don't watch it in the theater because it will ruin that aspect for you. However, with that said, overall, if you just want to watch this movie, I'd stream it at home. It'll be on HBO Max in a couple months. That's where I would recommend you watch it. But those are just my opinions because that's my review for Joker, Folie et Deux. Have you had a chance to see this film yet? If you have, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know where we agree or disagree. Maybe you thought it was an absolute masterpiece and it was a perfect follow-up to that original film. Or maybe like me, you were very disappointed. And this was one of my most anticipated movies of 2024. Like, I've been looking forward to this movie. And so my expectations were high and I left pretty disappointed. Let me know how you felt about it in the comment section. If you've seen it or if you plan to see it, let me know that too. Finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we got to the end of my Joker, Folie et Deux movie review, and this was one of my most anticipated movies of 2024, so it's a pretty big letdown for me, and I won't be surprised if it's on my most disappointing films of 2024 at the end of the year. But if you like this video and you want to check out more content on my channel, well, I've got all of my best and worst of 2024 right there, and I've got all of my 2024 movie reviews right there.